What's up, guys? This week on Gotham, we saw the birth of the Scarecrow, the rise of the Penguin, Bruce picking himself up for the very first time, and Fish Mooney became leader of the Morlocks. I'm Eli Wilbur, and this is Waiting for Batman. Welcome, Gothamites! Before we dive into the dark depths of the Rogues Gallery, I was watching the X-Files from the beginning, and I came across episode 3 of the pilot season, season 1, which dashing young man do I see trying to convince Scully that her partner is crazy? That's right, guys, Detective Bullock. He must have had a quick stint at the FBI before relocating himself to Gotham. Pretty cool, man. I was really stoked to see that. Alright, guys, but enough fun Bat facts. This week's Gotham was awesome. I was pretty stoked by pretty much all of the storylines going on, but I have to say that the most memorable moment of the show was when the Penguin and Riddler met for the first time. Watching the show as a Batman fan, it has a certain sense of, you get goosebumps watching it. Think of it in the way of just, you're watching these characters who you know where these characters end up, and just getting to see the fun little interactions that they have prior to when they're notorious, to when they're famous. It's really awesome. In this moment, the Penguin, he comes to see Gordon, actually. He goes to the Gotham Police Department, and they worked in a quick little scene where the Riddler, or Edward Nygma, comes up and he sees the Penguin, and they have a fun little moment. Riddler tries to, he gives one of his riddles to Penguin. Poor guy. He has yet to find someone who wants to hear his riddles. And Penguin, blows him off, kind of, makes him feel low. And it's a fun moment because you don't just watch it as Oswald Cobblepot and Edward Nygma meeting for the first time. You see it as the Penguin and the Riddler meeting for the first time. And I loved it, man. It was awesome. But it only makes me wonder, what are they going to do with those characters later on? Are we going to see them team up at some point? Or are they going to hate each other? It's not knowing where the show's going to end, it just leads you to want it leads you to so many possibilities. There's so many things that they can do with these characters, and, will they eventually team up against Gotham or what? Who knows? Will we ever see Batman? That's the biggest thing. Will we ever see Batman on the show? I don't know. I really don't think so, but it's always fun to kind of imagine the possibilities. And I mean, I guess that's the whole point of Gotham, is just see where they can take it. And I really, from this scene alone, I just can't wait to see what the future holds for us when it comes to the show. It's awesome. It's tremendous. It's wonderful. But guys, this episode wasn't called Scarecrow for nothing. This episode gave us the reimagined origin of that character. Jonathan Crane's dad, Gerald, not Todd like he led us to believe in the previous episode. What a liar. You can't trust this guy. Basically ODs his own flesh and blood in an attempt to cure him permanently of fear. Now, I'm sure that idea works fine on paper, but it only ended up getting Gerald killed dead, which, did anyone else notice the fact that this is the second time that Bullock and Gordon have killed a supervillain's dad? It's just not a good idea. And he ended up leaving his son in a perpetual state of fear. I thought that this was a clever reimagining of that character's origins. I love seeing what other people can do with origin stories, and man, we don't get to see the origin of villains that often. We don't focus on that enough. Sure, we see them in movies, but you gotta wait for movies to come out every so often in order to see your favorite villains be reimagined and have their origins told. What I love about Gotham is that you can pretty much count on the fact that every episode or every other episode is going to focus on the origin of a new supervillain. And that's badass, man. I think that's awesome. I love Batman. I know how Batman starts, though. I know Batman's origin story. And his origin story gets to be spread out, across many episodes. Whereas the villains, we get to see a new one every day or every week. So I think that's awesome. But hey, What did you guys think of this origin story? Let me know down in the comments below. Some of the side stories in this episode followed Oswald as he prepared for the opening of his new nightclub, and Bruce as he took yet another step to becoming an incredible badass. Or should I say, bat-ass? But in all seriousness, look, there's not a single storyline that I'm upset with in this episode. And believe it or not, I even liked the Fish Mooney storyline. I thought it was all great. The whole Penguin thing, it's just fun to see that this season is really focusing on that character. We know how the Penguin ends up. The Penguin ends up on top. And Maroni makes a little joke to Penguin at some point, saying that he's never going to be in charge, that he's never going to be on top, that he's just going to be a lowly little, penguin, essentially. And man, it's just... You can't wait to see Penguin get his revenge. You can't wait for him to just show everyone that he's gonna be on top. Yeah, he's a scumbag. Yeah, he's an evil little twerp. But man, he's great. We got to see one of the main focuses of this episode, Bruce Wayne. He goes on a little hike, a hike that he typically takes with his dad. This was sad, man. I gotta say, I did shed at least a tear during this part, the storyline. Bruce Wayne, he's getting ready for this hike, and he and Alfred, they have a great little moment in the mansion, and he assures Alfred that he'll be back before the sun goes down and all this stuff, and they explain that basically this is a hike, annual hike that he takes with his father. They hike to a certain point, they watch the sunrise. And there's a point when Bruce, as he's walking towards the spot, he's collecting stones. And he collects one stone and then he collects a second stone. And you end up finding out that this is there's a little area where they have stones piled up. And one pile, the taller pile, has TW carved into one stone. The other pile has BW carved into the other. And you realize that this is something that they do every time on the hike. And Bruce, he puts one there for his father and one there for himself. And then after a minute, just like a minute of letting it be, he just loses it. This is the first time we really get to see him lose his temper and really just go batshit. Batshit. Another bat reference. But after his little outburst, he ends up falling down a really steep hill. Like the way that they filmed it, the way they shot it, it made it seem like he really would have hurt himself pretty bad on this fall, which was great because this is part of the whole, trial session of Bruce Wayne going from being just a little boy who lost his parents to being Batman. And one of the first things he has to learn to do is pick himself up without the help of his father. And man, he does it. He does it so well. He creates a splint. He climbs his way up the hill. And by the time he climbs up the hill, it's dark. And so Alfred obviously has been worrying about him. So Alfred is already at the top of the hill with a campfire waiting for Bruce. And Bruce just says, why didn't you come get me? And Alfred just, what I love about this Alfred is that he, in a way, is part of the reason why Bruce becomes Batman, because he's allowing Bruce to make his own decisions. He's allowing Bruce to just be his own person and to make these, these really weird choices in life. And at the end of the day, I mean, I think we can attribute a lot of Batman to Alfred, and I loved it. Again, for me, just watching the show as a Batman fan, knowing so much about the history, knowing so much about the comic books and the movies and all of that, it's fun, and it gives me chills. It gives me goosebumps just watching it sometimes and seeing these moments and how they build up. And I love it. I love the show. I love those moments. They were wonderful. But I even loved the Fish Mooney stuff. With that said, last but not least, we found out what happened to Fish this episode after her ship was taken over by what we can only assume were pirates. What we know about Fish so far is that she was once one of the top dogs in Gotham. She was pretty high up there. And then, obviously, she kind of overstepped her bounds. She tried to take over Gotham from Falcone, and he found out the truth. From what we know, she was leaving so that she could recoup her losses and come back and at least get revenge on Penguin. I don't know if she was going to try and take over Gotham again, but definitely she wanted to kill Penguin. That was one of her plans. She was on a ship, getting away, getting far away, you know, at least planning on returning. But then we see that at the end of the last episode, her ship got taken over, and I'm assuming they're pirates. I don't know. We'll find out who these guys are that took over the ship at one point. We'll find out. But they ended up taking her, putting her in some kind of underground prison with a lot of other people. It was fun to watch her. You really get to see why Fish is so cunning and why she's on top. She knows her shit. She finds the leader of the prison. She finds out who he is. She kind of, you know, finds his weakness, gets in with him, and then just stabs him in the throat. I loved watching it. I love how brutal this show is. I can't stress enough that I really love that they allow this show to be as brutal as it deserves to be. I'm starting to really like her. I'm starting to get excited when she's on screen now, because now it's like, oh, she's more interesting to me. Now I'm starting to kind of see her appeal, and I want to watch her develop now. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know what her overall arc is going to end up being, but it's fun to see. She, you know, so at the end of the episode, at the end of Scarecrow, she ends up taking over the Morlocks. That's what I call them. I don't know what else to call these guys. They all live underground in some kind of sewer. They're the fucking Morlocks as far as I'm concerned. But then they threw in a new prisoner and they took out her eyeballs. So, I mean, Fish, you might lose your eyeballs, so you might want to come up with a plan to escape pretty soon. What did you guys think of Fish's storyline? I'm going to call it right now. This is what I think is going to happen. She's going to escape the prison with her new army. She's going to come back and she's going to just terrorize Gotham with those guys. And I think she's going to become a new villain. I mean, that's what I'm starting to think. That maybe Fish Mooney doesn't die, then maybe she becomes another character, another known Batman villain. I don't know, we'll see, but what do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. And before I leave you, my precious little Gothamites, let's look back on the time when Bane took over Gotham and tried to discredit me and my war on crime. That's right, guys. I'm Batman. Special thanks to Aldo Montijo for that epic fan art. I love when that guy puts my face on things that I love. Star Wars, Batman, doesn't matter. It's all epic. So I can't wait to see what the next amazing piece of art is. Keep up the good work, my friend. But that's it for Waiting for Batman. Until next time, I'm Eli Wilbur, the Batfan. Have a bat-tastic week, guys. Get it? Bat-tastic, not fantastic. Bat, I took fan, I replaced it with bat. Bat-tastic. You like it?